You want something that's small, easy to use, and light enough to carry anywhere. That doesn't really get in the way of you taking a picture. I wanted the same thing, but after I looked at all the expensive point and shoots that cost more than the new iPhone, I was asking myself, is it even worth it? And why not get something cheaper that's actually better? That's right, we're looking at that weird and wacky era of the 2000s and late 90s where film cameras were packed to the brim with crazy features. We're talking predictive autofocus, eye tracking focus, and even image stabilization in a film camera. Honestly, it's kind of surprising some of these features are no longer in our digital cameras. But first, let me show you the ads that these guys ran for this camera, and just watch this. It's priceless.
Go for the gold. The new Rebel G. Get the ultimate rush.
Is this guy really just painting with a tennis racket at the end of this ad? It's like, what the hell is even happening in this ad? So yeah, the Canon Rebel G is the camera that I picked up. And fun fact, I think it's actually the lightest SLR ever made. Minus the Rebel 2000, which is like 50 grams less, but that one just looks hideous to me, so I don't really count that one. This has features that crush a lot of the pro, even super high-end point and shoots that you see. So let me just go through a few. The exposure times range from 30 seconds to 1/2000 seconds. It uses cheap CR123 batteries with insane battery life. I've been using the same battery pack for maybe the last year or so, and I haven't had any issue with it. It has DX-coded film support with manual override, so it'll recognize the ISO of the film that you put in here, but you can adjust it from there. So if you want, you can overexpose or underexpose for creative purposes. It features multi-exposure up to 9 different shots, and the metering still works for all of those shots. And it has this cool auto film transport where essentially the roll is being put back into the canister. So when you're taking pictures, it's feeding it back into the film roll. And then when you're at the end of the roll, it has this cool feature where it just auto rewinds it, and you open it up and can just pop out one canister and put the next one in. This has 3-point autofocus with infrared assisted lighting, so it's better for low light situations, grabbing autofocus still, compared to a lot of point and shoot cameras, or basically all of the point and shoot cameras. It has 1.5 frames per second burst mode, through the lens metering, auto exposure bracketing, an A-depth mode, which is basically when you want to keep an entire group picture in focus, and so you pick that and it'll automatically select the aperture to ensure that everyone's in focus. It supports remote shutter release and has a really bright viewfinder, so you can see everything, 93% coverage of the frame. And the best thing about it, in my opinion, is that you can slap on any EF lens from 1987 to the ones that are still being made today by other companies. So I'll be the first to admit that this is definitely not the coolest looking camera. I mean, it's basically a black piece of plastic with you know, it looks cheap, especially with mine because I have a piece of tape here keeping the battery door closed. But you know what you can do, and what I've done is, yeah, the camera's not cool, but you can slap on a really cool lens. So what I got here is the Zeiss Tessar 45mm f2.8. And this is really a slept-on lens. So with this lens, you get that classic Zeiss rendering, and I think it's a little bit better than the pancake that came with this camera, which is the 40mm Canon EF. From the pictures I've seen online, that sometimes just looks almost a little too digital and a little too clinically sharp, as we like to say. But this I can show some pictures now, has just a really unique look to it, and something about the way it renders light is really pleasing to my eye. With this one, what I've done is actually gotten a custom-made adapter from this guy in Europe, and he goes by Litax. And what it lets you do is hard adapt a bunch of lenses, including the CY Zeiss Contax Zeiss mount, it lets you hard adapt that to a different mount. So in my case, I hard adapted it to EF, and so this plate in silver here is basically the EF plate, and it works on all my cameras that have an EF mount. Another little thing I did here is print a separate focus ring because the original rubber ring on this fell off, and I think it was already not that usable, so this helps it just protrude slightly and allow me to grab focus better. Yeah, honestly, this is one of my favorite pancakes and one of the few vintage pancakes, up there with like the Olympus 40mm and some other ones. But this is really what attracted me. I wanted to buy a Zeiss lens because I know they just, from what I've seen online, at that point the images looked really just, you know, had a lot of character, but were also sharp and neutral on a color balance. I think this lens in particular is one of the most slept on Zeiss lenses. So it's only fitting that I paired it with a, one of the most slept on film SLRs. So let's talk about the price of this thing. You know, really what I wanted at first was a Contax T2 or something like that, the Yashica T4, really high-end premium point and shoots that will cost you around $1,000, I think, at this point. This camera, I bought it with the kit lens, the 35 to 70, I believe, for $15 on Craigslist, or no, $15 on Facebook Marketplace. And then I turned around and sold the kit lens for 20 bucks. So I'm actually up $5 on this camera, which is just baffling. The thing is though, this is actually my second one. I think it has a little bit of a weakness where if you drop it, the battery door here tends to break off. And if you lose that, there's no way to power it. So that happened to me twice now. And it's mainly just because I've been clumsy with it and left it in a backpack, forgot it was in there and then dropped it on the ground. So yeah, probably user error on my point. If you pair this with the Nifty 50 from Canon or the 40mm, you can get those for really cheap. Those go for 100 or even less, I think. So all together, you're looking at about $100 for this setup. And the best part is you're not sinking a fortune into something that will become useless when the electronics fail. So actually, I think that makes it even better than the point and shoots, because with the point and shoots, you can't remove the lens, which renders it basically worthless once it fails. But with this one, when my first one failed, I just took off the battery and took it to an electronics recycling company and then bought a new one for less than the price of a 6-pack. I mean, it's less than the price of the roll of film that's in it right now. That's just kind of wild. Like, the film roll of Cinestill 800T costs basically more than this camera did. Because this is so cheap, and it's basically allowed me to treat it like a disposable camera, where I'll take this anywhere, places where I would take no other camera. Like, you know, for street photography and spots where I really would worry about a more expensive camera, even a point and shoot camera, this gets out and gets real world use. So, you know, I think it's one of those things where, you know, if I had a Contax T2, I would be babying the shit out of that. And I probably wouldn't really bring it out as much. So to summarize, this is practical, reliable, and it has a ton of features that you won't find in a point and shoot. It has access to one of the largest lens ecosystems out there, and you don't need to spend any money basically to get this and a good pancake lens. Just get out there and shoot with it, and I think you'll find that it's super awesome. So this guy's just like sniping the town's water supply and everyone's like super thrilled about it. It's It's great. Let's just watch one more, just because these are super entertaining.
To change the image of a rebel, change lenses. You've got the Rebel camera, now push it. With the whole line of EOS lenses. Hit it, Andre.
Image is everything.
EOS Rebel and lenses